So far, we have talked about mostly classic American foodstuffs. But if you look at your table, you might see a little bit of influence from other countries. And at my family's table, the most prominent, especially for the vegetarians, is macaroni and cheese. It actually has a Greek origin, both the product as well as the name.
What? Macaroni and cheese is Greek?
Well, the macaroni part.
Okay.
The macaroni started with Greek, then moved to Italy.
Oh.
And then in the 1700s, in England, the term macaroni started being applied to people who were basically dandies. Like they had tried to bring these sort of European influences to England, and they'd kind of overdress a little bit.
Maybe stick a feather in their hat.
Yeah, they stick a feather.
And that's exactly, I was just getting to that, right? So Yankee Doodle originally was written by a British surgeon making fun of Americans who put a feather in their cap and then thought that made them look more sophisticated. But then the Americans are like, we love it.
We love pasta.
We love it. We're going to embrace it.
Yeah, why not?
And now Yankee Doodle's like the state song of Connecticut.
Oh, really?
Yes. As for macaroni and cheese, that started in England, now very popular in America. So when it comes to your portfolio, this, of course, is your international allocation.
I was wondering how you're going to get there.
That's
wow.
Right. Yes. So we don't have as good stats on international stocks. So for this, I'm just going to go back to 1970. Since then, international stocks have they've provided an average 8.9% a year. Okay. And we had mentioned a couple episodes ago about how many people like Jack Bogle of Vanguard think international investing is not necessary. There's certainly no evidence that international stocks outperform U.S. stocks over the long term. Plus, many U.S. companies have plenty of business overseas. And I generally agree. That said, I do have a significant allocation in my own portfolio, as well as in the RYR model portfolios. I should finish, by the way, the nutritional facts here. That's the average annual return, 8.9%. Best year was 70%.
Oh.
So that's pretty good. Worst year, a loss of 43%. Yeah. What do these sort of overall target fund date allocations look at? What are those looking at in terms of international stocks? Basically, around 28% for non-U.S. developed. So that's Canada, England, Western Europe, generally speaking. And then 6 to 7% emerging markets. So in my little allocation here, the macaroni and cheese is the developed. Nemerging markets, those are the lentils on your table.
Oh man, I love lentils. Like some curried lentils that your vegan sister-in-law brought. Is that what it is? Okay.
Something like that. So basically they are looking at allocating more than a third of your stock portfolio to international stocks. Most Americans are not there. And even I have, in my allocations, it's close to like 30%. The tricky thing about emerging markets is the data for emerging markets, depending on what you look at, there's some data sources that say they outperform all other types of stocks, and other data that say they underperform all other types of stocks, partially because the data on some of these emerging markets is not so good, and there's some debate on what makes an emerging market. For example, like South Korea, is that an emerging market or not?
Feels pretty emerged.
Right, but the thing is, if you're going to go international, you're going to get more volatility than U.S. stocks, and the more you tilt your portfolio towards emerging markets, it's going to get crazy. So keep that relatively small, especially if you're not particularly risk-tolerant investor. Although, and I did this a few months ago, I did a survey of investment return assumptions across many of the major firms. The vast majority expect emerging markets to outperform U.S. stocks over the next decade. But it's going to be a lot of volatility along the way. And of course, who knows if that'll actually happen in the end.
So you have a valid reason for maybe not loading up on lentils and not offending.
Just saying, you don't need lentils to have a perfectly fine Thanksgiving meal.
Just enough to be polite.
There you go.